Okay, so we're going to be getting started in introducing ourselves to SolidWorks. If we go to our learning plan right now, we are going to be looking at chapter 2, and this is where our practice problem, the adjuster, so practice problem module 1, there's a tutorial in chapter 2 that's going to walk us through creating that adjuster, that part, that model. And that is going to be on starting on pages 2-4, and it's going to go through 231. So what we're going to do now is we are going to go through that tutorial. So I'm going to go underneath my camera. The tutorial, or I'm sorry, the chapter starts on page 2-1. And this is going to be the start of our chapter. And in this chapter, we're really just getting introduced to, like it says here, the fundamentals of parametric modeling. Okay. Now, before we get into doing the actual demonstration, it starts off the chapter here in the introduction. And it talks about feature-based parametric modeling. And I want to explain exactly what that is. SolidWorks is a little bit different in how it actually, creates things than a traditional, if you would, CAD software like AutoCAD. AutoCAD is going to create geometry in what we call a 2D format. So it's going to be just kind of X and Y coordinates. It's kind of like taking a sheet of paper, and instead of drawing on that sheet of paper, we're going to be drawing on the computer screen. That's what AutoCAD is like. So we basically just take something that would have been, if you would, hand drawn, and we draw it on the computer by using, lines and circles and arcs and all sorts of features, okay? SolidWorks is different. SolidWorks, as it says here, it's parametric based. And what it does is, number one, the main advantage of parametric software is that anything that's related to that model is connected, okay? Meaning, when I create my model, I create that geometry, but then I can create a part file from it. And if I create that part file from it, it's connected back to that model. So if I make a change to my model, it automatically updates the drawing. I don't have to do that separately. If I make a change to my drawing, it automatically connects and it corrects or updates that model. Same thing for an assembly. If I use that part in an assembly, it'll update, in every place that part is actually going to be used in whatever assembly that it's used in, because they're all connected. If I was doing that very same thing, for instance, in an AutoCAD environment, I would have to remember and look up where are those parts all used, so I would update all of those assemblies. If I changed something in the actual drawing itself, I would have to update it in the other places as well, separately and manually, basically. So, so parametric software is like smarter in that sense, okay? Which has a lot of advantages. So very time efficient, but then also we have to pay attention to how we save our files and where we save them. In AutoCAD, if we just, save a file somewhere, we can easily move it somewhere else and it's not going to affect the actual part file itself. SolidWorks, that's a problem. When we decide where we're going to be saving our files, we have to leave them there, because SolidWorks, if I make a drawing of it, it's going to be looking for that model in the same place that it originally was. Same thing for if there's an assembly. If that assembly calls out a separate part, it's going to look for it in that place that it was originally drawn. So we have to be aware of where we're saving things, and we don't want to move things around because it could affect other things down the line. So we'll continue to reiterate that. So that's something to be aware of, but there's a lot of advantages to parametric modeling. This is going to be the part that we're going to be creating. This is the adjuster, okay? The adjuster. So you're going to notice that we have a 3-dimensional part here. This is called the model, okay? It's also considered a single part. So when we get into the SolidWorks software, we are going to be creating a part, and that's where we're going to be starting with this. So you're going to notice that, like I said, in this chapter, this adjuster is our tutorial. You could go through this tutorial independently, because what they do is you're going to notice that it's going to start with step number 1, step number 2, and it's going to give you some illustrations and things along the way. I'm going to be demonstrating this as we go along, so you're welcome to follow along with me, but you also can just watch right now if you want to as well. Something as I go through this is what I'm not going to do, and this has nothing to do with if you're, paying attention or not, but I'm not going to stop to get everybody up to speed at the same point all the time. If I would, I think we have 17 people total in class. I think we have 15 in class right now. If people keep starting and stopping, we're not going to get through the lecture. So what I want you to do is understand that you're going to have plenty of time to work on this after I'm done with the demo. If you wanted to follow along and try to keep up with me, that's totally fine. I'm not going to go super fast, but again, I'm not going to stop to get everybody caught up because you'll have plenty of time to do that. Does that make sense to everybody? Okay. So what we're going to do is we are going to go ahead and we are going to open up SolidWorks. Okay. So I am going to switch over to my desktop. Let me see here. Oh, I think I have to minimize this. Okay. I'm going to. Okay, so what you're going to do is you're going to go to the desktop, and on your computer, you're going to find where SolidWorks 2023 is. Okay, so we're going to double click on SolidWorks 2023. And we're going to have to kind of wait for it to come up. Okay. Sorry, takes a little bit. Now, when you get here, you're going to maybe have a screen that doesn't look exactly like mine. But what you're going to look for is you're going to look for somewhere where it says part, or where you see this illustration of an individual part. Do you guys see that somewhere on your welcome screen? What you're going to do is you're going to click on part. It's just telling you, you could create an assembly, you could create a part, you create a drawing. We're going to create an individual part, which is our model. So I'm going to click on that part. Now, this is going to be kind of where we land, for instance. So up at the top here, you're going to notice that when you come in the first time, it's going to just give your part a generic name. And right now it's just calling it part 1. Okay. So when we take the time, and we're going to do that as we create some geometry, we're going to then save the adjuster where it's actually going to go. Okay. But for right now, just know that that's going to be the file name that we have. Now, up on the top here, you're going to notice that we have some items. This is going to be, I forget exactly, I think it's called the taskbar. And this is going to be where we can save our files, where we can close and such. So this is kind of like a normal Windows environment. If we click on file here, you're going to notice that, and when I say click, I mean left click. It's always going to be like when you want to select, it's just like a Windows environment. You're going to notice that we have new, open drawing, save as, and such, and a number of different things down here. Okay. When we start creating geometry and we're ready to save, we'll use that save and save as. But this is also where we can close out and we can kind of come back in. So this is kind of like that normal, place that you normally go for starting new files. As we go across, there's some edit things. Not a whole lot is open there right now. There's some view things. A lot of times we're not going to use view in SolidWorks because we have other ways that we can more efficiently do it, like with our mouse, for instance, and we'll be practicing those. And then there's a couple other, items along here. The one we're going to be using most often is going to be this file. And this is where we can start something new. We can close SolidWorks and we can also save, okay, and print, as you can see. So we're going to go down and you can just left click anywhere inside what we call the graphics area. Just below that taskbar, we have what we call the command manager. Does everybody have this kind of ribbon that you see right here? Is there anybody who does not have it? Okay. If you don't have it, what you're going to do is you're going to go up to your taskbar and go anywhere along here. Just kind of set your mouse there. You're going to right click and you're going to click on Enable Command Manager. Okay. And now you should have that full ribbon come up. Did that happen for you?
No, but maybe I do have full ribbon.
Oh, okay. So it's going to be the ribbon underneath here where it says feature, sketch, and such. If you don't have it, you can up in the taskbar, you can right click and just make sure that Enable Command Manager is selected there or checked. Okay. Sure. This is where we're going to kind of live, okay, on the command manager. So you always want to make sure that it is there, or I call it the ribbon, all right? Underneath here, the places that we're going to go most often are going to be feature and sketch, okay? Those are the two places that we're going to be, all right? That's where we kind of create our models. That's where we're going to live. Now, in the very middle here, this is called the graphics area. This is where we're going to be doing the work that we're going to be doing. We're going to be sketching here. We're going to be extruding. We're going to be cutting. We're going to be revolving. That's all going to happen on the inside there. And then over on the left-hand side, this is called the, I always call it, I default and I call it like the model tree, but it's something like feature design model tree or something. And what this does is this is going to give us the order of how we add things. Okay. So right now up at the top here, it has the part 1, that's the part name. And then it's got some of these items underneath here. And it has to do with, you can change the materials. These are going to be the planes that are in there. It has the origin identified, but it doesn't have anything else. So down below that blue line, we're going to start adding things. We're going to start sketching and extruding and things like that. We're going to see those populate as we create our part. Over on the right-hand side here, this is just a menu that gives us some resources. So there's a library in here where later on when we do assemblies, we're going to be pulling, if you would, hardware out of that library so that there's standard, for instance, different pieces of like washers and nuts and pins and things like that. And instead of modeling those and creating those separately, we've got a library that we can pick those out of. So that's going to be over there, but that'll be later on when we do assemblies. Underneath here, you're going to see that this is called a heads up menu. Okay, and this heads up menu has a couple of different functions. We can zoom in, we can zoom out, we can fit. So we'll be referencing that as we go along. And it's kind of nice and conveniently right here so that we can use it when we need to with our graphics screen. Okay. All right. So any questions right now? Is everybody kind of at the same point at this point? Okay, cool. Yep. The library. Oh, Oh, do you see that? I didn't know if you had it. Okay. All right. And you can also push it over if you want to. So yeah. All right. And then, yeah, there's other tabs that are underneath here for that. Okay. So now that we're here, we're kind of at this point. Let's kind of see what we've got in our tutorial here and kind of follow along so we know where we're at. Okay. All right. So we opened up SolidWorks, we selected the part icon, and we kind of talked about these elements that are on our screen. Oh, one place I didn't tell you about was the status bar. And the status bar is something that we're going to be looking at. This is the bar that's at the bottom here. And right now, because we picked a part, it says we're editing a part. And that's what we're going to be doing. We haven't done anything quite yet, but we're in that mode of editing a part. Additionally, down at the bottom right-hand corner here, you're going to know this says IPS. Do you guys have that? Or do you have MM something, something? What this is these are the units. The units that we're in, if you go to the triangle to the right, down at the very bottom right-hand corner, you can quickly change the units here, which is really nice, okay? We are going to be working in inch, pounds, and seconds, so make sure that it says IPS there, okay? So we'll go back underneath here. So that's the status bar. Then the next part here is this is if you need to enable the command manager, which we looked at already. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go to page 2-6. And we're going to go in and we're going to change a little bit about the dimensions. So we already looked at the units here. Okay. But we are going to go back to SolidWorks, and right up at the very top here, there is a gear. It's called options. If you just kind of hover over the top of it, do you see that up on the very top of the taskbar? Up at the very top, there's that gear. We're going to click on that gear. Okay. And you're going to get this menu. And we're going to go over to document properties. It's the second tab. All right. And we want to make sure that this is on ANSI right now for the overall drafting standard. Okay. And then we're also going to click on units. Now, if this is on something else, if this is on ISO, you want to change it to ANSI by just doing the arrow down and clicking on ANSI. ANSI is the English standard, ISO is the European standard. And so it does dimensions differently. So you'll know if you're in one or the other when we're doing things. The other place we want to go is we want to go to units here over on the left-hand side. And when I click on that, you're going to notice that it says IPS because we have that set up, but we want to change the number of decimal places. So down this column right here, if you click on length and you down arrow, we want to set it to 3 decimal places. So it says 0.123. So if you need to do the down arrow and then either arrow up or down and click the 0.123. So that's 3 decimal places on the length. And we're gonna do that very same thing down here for length again underneath the mass selection properties. Go to 3 decimal places there. And then we're simply going to hit OK. And it's going to save those things that we just did. Okay. All right. So go back underneath. Just want to show you how we're following along here. We just did this portion right here. All right. Now, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to start our first rough sketch. Now, when we sketch, what ends up happening, this is kind of the process that we go through for every feature that we create. So a model is always going to have 3 dimensions. It's going to have, if you would, kind of that X, Y, and a Z. All right. So when we extrude, what we're doing is we're giving kind of our, flat piece of paper or our flat sketch a depth. All right. But we have to always start with the sketch. So it's going to be kind of like that 2D. We have to do 2D before we can convert it to 3D. All right. So it talks here a little bit about a rough sketch. So in SolidWorks, if you've ever worked with something like AutoCAD is very what we call feature driven, meaning I have to draw the feature the right length and then I dimension it. I follow it with the dimension. In SolidWorks, on the other hand, I'm just going to kind of roughly sketch something and then I'm going to dimension it, and that dimension drives the actual entity. So then I can go in and I can change that dimension to whatever I want it to be by just changing the number, as opposed to having to redraw it to the right size. Okay. There's a lot of power in that. And that's a big advantage of a parametric software. Now, some of the things that they're mentioning here are, as you're sketching, try to make things proportional. You don't have to try to make it exact. Okay. That's not the point, because we're going to be adding dimensions to give it the exact numbers. But when we're sketching, we want it to be proportional. So, for instance, I'm going to kind of jump over there. We're kind of getting ahead here. We're going to be creating this L shape. Okay. So what we want to do is we want to make sure that however long we make this, we don't make the thickness taller than that. We want to make it proportional. We don't have to worry about exact numbers, but we're going to make it proportional so it looks like this L shape. Okay. And then we're going to add some dimensions. So as we turn the page and we're on 2.8, we're going to create our first rough sketch. Okay. So again, remember, whenever I want to create a feature, I want to create something, I always have to start with a sketch. All right. And before we go back to SolidWorks here, what we're going to be doing, our process is, when we look at our adjuster here, we're going to be creating this L shape right here. This is going to be the sketch that we're going to create, and then we're going to extrude it the depth of whatever the number is going to be, the dimension is going to be. So we're going to start right here and we're going to create this like L part, and then we're going to go on top and we're going to create this L part and extrude it down. That's going to be the process. But our first sketch is going to be this, and that's what we see on page 2-9. So starting on 2-8 here, we are going to go up to the top and we're going to click on the sketch tab and we're going to start our first sketch. Okay. So I'm going to go back to SolidWorks and we're going to go up on the upper left-hand side here. We're going to click the sketch tab and we're going to click the function we want to sketch. Okay. We're going to sketch. So now what should happen is when you click sketch up here, okay, because now it's like we're in a sketch mode. Remember, we're going to be drawing on a piece of paper or a plane. And the planes that we have are going to be the front plane, the top plane, and the right plane. These should sound familiar to you because they are, if you would, principal views of a part. If you've done the blueprint reading, you've talked about front, top, right side views, right? That's what we have here. These are like our orientations. And if you would, they're saying we're going to draw on a plane, but if you want to think of it as I'm sketching on a piece of paper, I'm going to sketch on the front plane is what I'm going to do. So what I want to do to select the plane, because over on the left-hand side here, it says in my message, you want to select the plane that you want to sketch on. We are going to sketch on the front plane. So you're going to just hover over it until it turns orange on the outside or gray like we see here. And as soon as it does, you're going to left click to select it. And now what's happened is it doesn't look like really anything happened, but what's happened is now it's flattened out and you're now sketching on that front plane. Okay. You'll also notice that we have an origin identified in the middle of our screen. Okay. Now that origin, we have to always tie our geometry to when we're starting our part. If we don't, then we're not going to get things what we call fully defined. What does fully defined mean? Well, right now we haven't laid any geometry yet. Down at the bottom on our status bar, it says that we're underdefined. Okay, underdefined. We never leave a sketch underdefined. We have to fully define a sketch. So I'm going to talk about that as we go through. But right now we're underdefined. And one of the very first things we want to do is we want to tie to the origin because that's going to help us to achieve being fully defined sooner. Okay. So we are going to be drawing, I'm going to go back underneath my camera here. We're going to be drawing this shape right here. And our origin is going to be in that bottom left-hand corner. Okay. So the process I'm going to take is I'm going to start with my first point in that bottom left-hand corner. This is on page 2-9. I'm sorry, 2-9. We're going to start our line there. We're going to go horizontal over to the right, just stay distance. We're not going to worry about how far. We're going to go up to 0.3, over to 0.4, up to 0.5, 6, and down to 0.7, which is going to reconnect back to 0.1. Okay. So that's the process that we're going to do right here. Okay. So I'm going to go back underneath SolidWorks here. Now I want to activate the line command. The line command is the first command in the upper left-hand corner here. You're going to notice that any of the commands that we have, if you want to know what they are, you're just going to place your cursor over the top and it's going to give you a description of whatever that feature is. Okay. And then you're going to notice that on the line, there's like that little triangle. That means that there's more underneath there. That's called a stacked command. Okay. So I'm going to click on that and you're going to notice that there's a couple different lines underneath there. We're still going to go with the line that's on top, just a regular line, but just know that there's center line and midpoint line. Okay. We'll use those in the future, but for right now, we're just going to use the regular line. So we're going to left click on that command. Now, when I left click and I just push my cursor into the graphics area, notice that I have a pencil next to my cursor now. That just tells me I'm in drawing mode, if you would, or in sketch mode. All right. And any of the points that I create, which are going to be with my left or my index finger, my left mouse button, are going to lay down these points. Okay. So it's saying now it wants to know, where do you want to put your first point? So you're going to go close to the center of our origin, and that origin is going to turn orange. That means that it's going to snap to that. That's what I want to do. I want to activate that origin, and that's going to be the first point that I lay down. Best practice that you can have is always to tie to the origin. Okay. So I'm going to left click. I'm on the origin. And now you're going to notice I have my line. What I want to do, don't click your second point yet. If I want this to be a horizontal line. I want to make sure it's horizontal. Kind of play with this here a little bit. If you go up a little bit or down a little bit, notice that if I go up a little bit, you can kind of see that my line isn't straight. But if I go down, all of a sudden it snaps to where it's like perfectly horizontal. Do you guys kind of see that happening as you're moving it? You want to be perfectly horizontal. All right. Now, you'll notice you're also getting coordinates at the end point where you're at. Don't worry about those. We're just drawing a line right now. Okay. And I'm just going to draw a horizontal line. I'm going to left click. So I've got my first line in there. Now, something that happened, there are these two green boxes. The first green box is going to be at the origin. That's a coincident, what do we call it? A coincident relation. Sorry, I was going to, in solid or in another software, they call it something different. So a coincident relation, that means that that first point is coincident with the origin of our part here. Additionally, you're going to see this horizontal green line there if you got the horizontal in there, okay? And what that means is that's called a horizontal relation, so that we know that that line is horizontal and it's not like slightly up or down, okay? So if that doesn't happen, let's say you have a line and you put it in and it's not quite horizontal and you didn't get that constraint, you can always add it later, and we'll have practice when we can do that. But that's what those are there. Does everybody have those two relations on their line, coincident and horizontal? Okay. Now what we're going to do is we're just going to continue on. If I wanted to stop my line at any point or end this line command, I can just hit the escape key, but I don't want to, because I'm going to continue on and I'm going to go straight up now. So now you're going to notice that I'm going to go straight up. And what happens is, you see how this like dotted blue line is going up? That's kind of like snapping to a vertical line now. Okay. So I'm just going to go up a little bit, left click, and then I'm going to go in and I'm going to go horizontal again. In, I'm going to go up and I'm going to go left. Now, what's going to happen is when I get over the top of and close to back to that origin, do you see how it now puts another vertical line in there for you? Like when you see that vertical line, because now it's going to be in line with that origin. And then you're going to go back to the origin. And now I could continue on if I wanted to, but I don't want to. Once I have this closed, I'm going to hit escape to end the line command. And now you're going to notice that I'm out of the line command. So did everybody kind of create this L section here? Closest to what we have. Okay. Now, a couple things. We're going to go look at the bottom here. We're still underdefined. We're underdefined because we don't have any numbers on the size of our features. The only thing we know about these features is that they're vertical and horizontal, and that we have a coincident point to our origin. That's all that we know. But now what we need to do is we need to give it sizes, all right? You'll also notice that we have two of our lines are black because they're tied to the origin. Those are not fully defined, but they're defined. But we have other ones that are blue that are not there. Our goal is to get the entire perimeter of our L shape here to be black, and that down in the lower right-hand corner here, that instead of saying underdefined, it says fully defined, okay? So we are gonna start adding dimensions. So you're gonna notice that there is this command called smart dimension, okay? Smart dimension is going to add our dimensions for us. There is one of these little downward triangles. So if we click on that, you're gonna notice that there's a whole bunch of different types of dimensions. There's vertical, horizontal, chain dimension, baseline dimension, blah, 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 all right? We are just going to use smart dimension for right now, okay? Because smart dimension, what it does is based on the feature that we're dimensioning, it's going to kind of give us a best guess, all right? So we're going to click smart dimension. And when I come back into my graphics area, you're going to notice that there's a little dimension next to my cursor. That means that I'm in dimensioning mode. Now, to lay down a dimension, there's a couple different ways to do it depending on what you're doing, but I just want to identify the length of my first horizontal line, which was the first line that I put in, okay? I'm going to hover over it. It's going to turn orange. I'm going to left click on it, left click anywhere on it. And now you're going to notice that it's like at the end of my cursor. I'm going to left click to place it, left click to place it. And now I'm going to have a box that's going to come up. It's like a text editing box where I'm going to be putting my number in. So if we look at step 4 on page 211, it wants us to enter in 2 inches. Okay, so we're just going to go 2 and then enter. Okay, and I've got 2 inches.
Do that one more time. I got it on the left, but I didn't have the box. The modified box.
Okay, yep, yep. So, let's see. Smart dimension, left click it, and then I'm just going to place it down below. I'm just going to move and place it, left click it down here. There you go. And then your modify box should come up and you're going to do 2 and then enter. Okay. Now I can continue to add dimensions. Okay. So the next dimension I'm going to put in is going to be for my vertical line, the second line that I created. So I'm going to hover over it again. I'm going to left click and I'm going to pull out to the right and I'm going to left click again. And this is going to be 0.75. Enter. Now, let's say you put your dimension down and you'd be like, oh crap, I didn't put in 0.75. It's wrong. What do? Hit the escape key to just get out of it. And all you're going to do is you're going to hover over that dimension. You're going to double click it and it's going to come back to that box and you can put in the correct value. Does that make sense to everybody? Oops, see, mine was wrong. I must have 0.75 there. 0.75. There we go. Okay. Very easy to change. Okay. It's just kind of like text editing. So then I'm going to go and if we go to page 213, kind of walks you through each one of these separately. Okay. But on 213, if we look at the illustration at the top here, these are going to be the dimensions that we want to add. Okay. So we had 2 inches here, 0.75, 0.75, and 2 inches. So I'm going to go back and we'll get the dimensioning to be where it's supposed to be. Then I'm going to go back up to Smart Dimension. I'm going to click on that horizontal line. Oopsie, I got the midpoint. If you ever get the midpoint like that, just hit escape, re-click on Smart Dimension, and just don't go to the midpoint. Otherwise, it's going to grab the point instead of the line. Make sure it's on the line instead. Left click, 0.75, enter. And then left click, go out, left click, and 2. Now, if your drawing is off of your screen, you want to fit it to the screen. There's 2 ways that we can do it. Right here on our heads up, it says zoom to fit. You can hit that zoom to fit, which is over on the left-hand side there, or you can hit the F key, either one. So if you click on this, it's going to put zoom to fit and it's going to get everything on your screen for you. All right. Now, as we look here, notice a couple of things. Number 1, I did hit the escape key to kind of get out of that dimensioning mode. So if you didn't, your last dimension might be blue. Just hit the escape key. You're going to notice that all my dimensions are black. All of my lines going around are black. That's my visual clue that this is fully defined, but definitively, I can go down here and I can see that it's fully defined at the bottom of my screen. You see right down here in the bottom right-hand corner-ish, not really the corner, but the right-hand side. At the very bottom, it says fully defined. The other place I know I'm fully defined is if I go in front of sketch 1. Notice that sketch 1 has now been added to my design tree. Okay. If there's a parentheses with a minus, that means you're underdefined. If there's not, it means you're fully defined. Okay, so you're good. All right. Now, once I'm fully defined, I now can take this sketch and I can extrude it. Okay, so I'm going to exit out of this sketch. So right up here, you're going to notice I can hit the exit key. Okay, so I have a sketch here now. Now, if you left click over here in your graphics area, your sketch 1 will be unhighlighted. If you can just left click on it to reselect it. Okay. Now, with that sketch selected, I'm going to go to my features tab on the top. Okay. Right above the features tab, the very first one, all the way over to the left here is extruded boss base. What I'm going to do is I'm going to click on that. I'm going to extrude this feature. Okay. And now what happens is you're going to see that the screen changes a little bit here. Okay. And now it's going to want to give depth to that sketch. Okay. Now over on the left-hand side here, we're going to go from our sketch plane. So our sketch plane is back here and you're going to notice that there's an arrow on the screen. So it's like coming towards us. If you want to change that direction, we're going to go with this direction. But if you want to change that direction, notice right here next to the word blind, I can toggle that and that's going to switch back and forth. Okay, so you can do that at any time. We're going to have it come towards us. And then you're gonna notice that there's blind here. Blind just means kind of like when you make a blind hole, what's the depth, right? You put it to a certain depth. The blind hole is to a depth. So this is gonna be a blind extrude. So we have to tell it what the depth is going to be. The default in SolidWorks is it's always gonna have the first depth when you create a part, it's gonna be at 0.1. I'm not sure why, but it picks that number. We want ours to be, I think, 2.5, right? So we're gonna highlight over the top of that and we're gonna say 2.5. And we're gonna hit enter. And now what it's gonna do is it's going to show us that like a preview of what it's gonna do. And this looks good. And all we're gonna do is we're gonna hit the green check mark up here because that means, yep, that's good. If it's not good, you can change that number, all right, to whatever it needs to be. So if you instead accidentally put 25, okay, you're gonna see that it's gonna be really, really long. We don't want it to be that long, okay? I want it to be 2.5. Now, yours may or may not be on the screen. So if it isn't, you can hit the zoom to fit, okay? Or your middle mouse button is a roller. If you roll away from yourself, it's gonna zoom out. If you roll towards yourself, kind of like an increment at a time, it's gonna zoom in. Do you see that? So that's a way that you can kind of zoom, or you can use the zoom to fit up here and it's gonna fit it to the screen. So once we are happy with that and that looks good, we can hit the green check mark, okay? And now we have an extruded part. To get rid of that blue in the background, just click anywhere in the graphics screen, okay? Now, yes?
How do I get rid of this new shadow that's here?
Yeah, so if you go to view settings, I think it's shadows in shaded mode. You can turn that off, toggle that on or off. Did it go off for you? Okay, yeah. Yeah, there's a couple little settings over here. You can change colors, you can change the backgrounds, all that kind of stuff. I saved that for later. But yeah, that's one of them. It's depending on what the settings were when they, put the image on. Yes, Ben.
Is there a setting where you can see the front, right, and bottom front?
Yes, yes. So if you go to the very middle here, oh, the planes themselves?
Yeah.
You can. So if I click, or if I go over the top, if I hover over the top of the front plane, is that what you're looking for?
Yeah, like in Creo, you can hide it.
You can, and that's gonna be, do you see where this little eyeball is here? You can then go here and then you can turn on and off axes and planes and things like that. Were yours on? Oh, we're off. Okay. All right. Yeah, I know. And in Creo, they call it constraints. That's what it was in my brain. And then I'm like, no, they call it something else here. It's relations in here. Okay. So, so now what I want to do is I want to go back in and show you how you can change something. Because sometimes it's like, oh crap, I want to, and one of the nice things about this is, like I said, it's dimension driven. So over on our feature manager now, you're going to notice that we have this boss extrude. That was the last feature, but where did our sketch go? You'll notice that next to it over to the left, there's this little triangle. You're going to expand on that triangle and notice that underneath it, kind of like an outline. Do you see how the sketch one is underneath it? That's like the parent feature is our boss, and the child, if you would, that it's made from is going to be that sketch. Does that make sense to everybody? When you do your screenshots for me and you hand in, I want these expanded out because I will know everything was fully defined as long as I don't see a parentheses with a minus in front of your sketch. When there's nothing in front of it, that means it was fully defined. Okay, I don't need the file to do that. I just need to see that. So I'll explain that to you guys when we do the hand in, but we're gonna always be, I'm gonna call it expanding out so that I can see, expand each feature so I can see the sketch. And that's gonna be doing that. Now, let's go to the sketch. I wanna go back to the sketch. Maybe I wanna change something about that sketch or change a dimension, okay? I'm gonna click on that sketch and I'm gonna zoom out by just taking my roller and moving away from me so I can get to it. Notice what happened here. I didn't go officially back into sketch mode, But notice that all of the dimensions that I created on my sketch are there for me. Guess what you can do? If I go to the 2-inch dimension and I double click on it, whoopsie, shoots. Let me click on that again. If I double click on it here, I get into a text editing mode. I can change this to 2.5, enter. And now it's 2.5 high. I can do the same thing down here for this 2 inches. I want to change that to 2.5 as well. And now it's 2.5 long. You see that? The other place that I can do it, I can go back into the sketch. So if I go over to the sketch here and I left click on it, you're going to notice that we get a series of boxes here. The upper left-hand corner one is called Edit Sketch. You can also go there to do the very same thing, and it goes back to that sketch that you did earlier. And again, you can double click on anything and you can edit that value. Okay. So you,
One more, where you, after the sketch.
yep. So I'm going to hit this. I'm going to exit out of the sketch mode here. So if I left click on the sketch,
Yep.
okay, here, when it's like in its kind of ISO view,
Yep.
I can double click on any one of these and I can go in there, or oopsie. Yeah. Or I can left click and then go up to what it's called Edit Sketch right here. It's the upper left-hand corner one.
Wow.
And this is where I officially go back into the sketch like I created it originally, and I can change anything about it here as well. Okay. All right. Either place. So I'm going to hit exit. Now to move it around, we've looked at the fit one. We also looked at, and we've used the roller, kind of incrementing it away and towards you, right? Let's say I want to move it around like this, okay? All you're going to do is you're going to take your middle mouse button or your roller, you're going to depress it, and you're just going to move it around. Do you see how you can move that model around to kind of look at it in different ways? Okay. So again, this is the roller, you're going to depress it, and you're going to just kind of move it around. Okay. The other thing you can do is you can pan, and pan is where you're just going to kind of move it left, right, up, down, like that way. You're going to hit and hold the control key, and you're going to depress your middle mouse button. You're going to hold it and you're going to go up, down, left, right, and that's just going to be a pan. Okay. So if you don't hit the control key, it's going to rotate. If you have the control key and you move, it's going to be a pan. All right. Yep, you can go up here to zoom to fit, like something like that. Is that what you want to do? You want to it back to where it was. So if I rotate it here, if I want to go back to the previous view, you can click that up here. It's the third one in from the left on that heads up menu. So I'll move mine around again. And if you go to the third one from the left, right up there, it's going to go back to that previous view. Okay. And it'll kind of increment back. Looks like here. If you want to look at that straight on again, like let's say I just want to look at the front view again. So I look at it straight on. You can go in the very middle here, view orientation. And if we click that, the down triangle, now you've got your 6 principal views: front, top, bottom, right, left, and back sides. So if I click the middle one, that's going to be my front view. If I go here and I click at the top view, it's going to be looking straight down on top. If I click again, you're going to notice that there's an isometric view. There's an isometric view. So you can use those as well to get at any one of those like principal views if you want. All right. So kind of play around with your mouse in and out with your roller, rotating around a little bit, panning. That's going to be the control, holding it up and down. So just kind of make sure, because that's going to be your primary way. In the book, they go over, starting on page 213, multiple ways of zooming and panning and all that kind of stuff. And most of it is always going to be with your mouse on the screen. They show you a lot of different ways. For instance, is it there? Maybe I'm on the wrong page here. Hold on. I think it's coming up actually. Oh, here, a little bit further. where we start looking on page 216, where you can get it into your isometric view. Then it's rotating the views using the arrow keys, rotating the views using your mouse. So they're showing you, starting on page 217, a whole bunch of ways. I'm just gonna tell you, use your mouse. It's primarily gonna be using that middle mouse button to rotate around, using the control key, going back and forth, and then using, you know, any one of these views here to look at your primary views, okay, when you need to. Otherwise, you'd have to go up into this view menu and then do the different things. And it's just extra clicks that you're just not going to do. All right. Multiple ways of doing it. So it's great to know that they're there. But if you want to explore that, feel free to do that. So I just want to go back over here and just get us caught up to where we're at. So what we've done so far, as we look here underneath on page 215, we've created our model. We have it 2.5 inches deep. Okay. And we looked at the different views, kind of looking at isometric views, rotating things around. That's what they did over here on 217. More options and details. I'm going to let you go through that if you want to. For instance, rotating with your arrow keys and panning. This is going to be the pan with the mouse button. Zooming with the mouse button, the roller in and out, kind of turning that roller. You can also do a zoom out with the Z key. And again, there's like I said, there's multiple ways of doing things. Whatever you're most comfortable with is what you can use. But I find that students most of the time like to do it through the mouse and like right on the screen. The next section here on page 221, this looks at all of the different, you know, viewing options again. So we'll kind of go over those on that heads up menu. The one all the way over to the left is the view to fit. You can either hit that, or you can just simply hit the F key on your keyboard, and that's going to be fitting it. The next one is going to be zoom to an area. This one is, I want to zoom to right here, and it's going to zoom in on that little spot. Okay. I'm going to hit the F key to fit the other one. And then anytime you want to get out of that, you just hit the escape key to end a command. The next one is previous. We saw that one earlier. So if we wanted to go back in, and we could do that. The next one is if you have a named view. We don't, so we're not gonna go into that. And then the orientations, which we already looked at. The next one over to the right, this is what you want your model to look like. So right now, our model is in shaded with edges. If you go down to the next one, this is just shaded, and notice it took the edges off, like the black edges off. So if you kind of compare those two, notice there's the black edges, and then now it's without those black edges. Okay. You can also put it into hidden lines removed. And you can put it into hidden lines visible. And you can put it into like a wireframe. Okay. So the most popular one is that very top one, you know, kind of in that solid looking model mode. Okay. The next area here is just turning different elements on and off. This is going to be turning planes and axes off. We're not going to worry about that right now. So you can just leave what the defaults are. The next one is you can edit the appearance. So you can change the color, for instance, like you can change it to blue, or you can change it to green, or to any of those colors in there. I'm going to keep it gray. I'm boring. The next one is you can change the environment. I'm not going to go into all of that. You can make it pretty crazy. And then also this appearance here too. So I forget your name. You had asked earlier. Tell me your name again. Yeah. Russell had asked, I want to get rid of that annoying shadow. And so that's going to be in here. You can toggle on and off those shadows. Okay. And I think it's the shadows in shaded mode or whatever. So, if you want to play around with those things, feel free to do so. But those are just kind of like nice to know things for right now. All right. So we did the display. Okay. So right now we have our L portion here. So the next thing we're going to do is we are going to add, and I'm going to go back to the original model. You don't have to do this. So we have right now this L section and we have the depth of 2.5 inches. The next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna add this L section and we're gonna extrude it down. So on page 225, it's gonna have us start a new sketch and we're gonna select the very top surface of our existing L bracket. So I'm gonna go back to SolidWorks here. I'm gonna rotate this around so that I can see that top surface. So if you need to kind of rotate this around, if you have to hold that middle mouse button and kind of move it around, because I'm gonna have to select this area right here. So I'm gonna go over to my sketch tab. I'm gonna start a new sketch. And we're gonna click on sketch. And it's gonna say, what plane do you want to sketch on? We're not gonna go on one of our principal planes. We're gonna use the existing part to sketch on it, okay? And we're gonna select this plane right here at the very top. Once it's selected and you're kind of hovering over it, you're gonna left click and now it's going to like switch the view so we're looking straight down on that area. I am going to zoom out a little bit, so I'm gonna rotate my mouse, increment it away from myself so I get it about this big. My origin is right here. And what we're gonna do, I'm gonna turn the page in my book. Our perspective is gonna be a little different, but what we're gonna do is we're going to, and this is on page 227, I like this view better than what they show us up here. We're gonna be starting in this corner right here. This is where our origin is, okay? And we are looking straight down on it. We're going to draw a line to the left, 2.5 inches long, 2.5, 3/4, go up, and then 3/4 thickness here. We're gonna rough sketch it to start, and then we're gonna add our dimensions after, just like we did before. So I'm gonna go back to SolidWorks. I'm gonna start with my line command up here in the upper left-hand corner. Okay, I'm gonna click on it. And when I get into my graphics area, I'm gonna go close to that origin. When it activates, I'm gonna left click. And then I'm gonna make a horizontal line. Make sure it's nice and horizontal. I'm gonna left click when I get a distance out. I'm gonna go down and I'm gonna left click. And I'm making, if you would, an upside down L this time. Now you're gonna go over to that horizontal line. And then, see, why is it making it? I'm gonna left click when I get back to my origin. Once I get back to my origin, I simply hit the escape key. Okay. How do you guys do? Okay. Now, you'll notice that I'm underdefined. I need to add my dimensions now. So I'm gonna go up to Smart Dimension. I'm gonna click on that first line that I drew, that horizontal line. Don't go to the point, go to off of that point somewhere along that line, left click, and we're gonna go straight up, left click again, and this is gonna be 2.5. Okay. I'm gonna go on my vertical line, left click. Just kind of move it out and then left click again, 2.5, enter. Then I'm gonna left click on the bottom line. Don't activate that point. Left click on the line, 0.75. And then the last one that I wanna do, oh, did I not get a line in there? I don't think I closed my line. I did not. If I didn't close my line, it didn't take that very last line. I'm not sure why. I'm gonna add my line from my origin down. There it is. Okay, now it's in there. So you should have a line here. I didn't for some reason. I must have not hit the key. And then I'm gonna left click and this needs to be 0.75 as well. Once you get these 4 dimensions in, I'm gonna hit escape to get out of here. You should be black all the way around. And it should say fully defined down at the bottom. If you're missing any of the horizontal or the vertical relations, is anybody missing any of the horizontal or vertical relations? Are those all in there for you? Okay, cool. Good. And that's really good. It kind of saves you time. You can always add them or change them if you need to. Okay, once we're fully defined, we're ready to exit our sketch and extrude this, okay? So I'm going to exit my sketch. And now you're gonna notice that it added sketch number 2 to my design tree, right? After the stuff that I did earlier. Now, what I'm gonna do here is I wanna show you what we just did so that you can see it, because I know you know what we did, but I'm gonna take my middle mouse button or my roller, I'm gonna depress it, and I'm gonna kind of rotate this. And do you see what we did? We added our sketch to the very top of our L bracket, okay? Now what we're gonna do is we're gonna extrude it so it goes down that 2.5 inch depth, okay? The height of our part. So with the sketch 2 selected, if you unselected it, just left click on it again so it turns blue here, and we can leave the dimensions, that's no problem. We're gonna go to the Features tab, Extrude Boss Base again. We're gonna click on that. And now for me, this is assuming that I wanna go up from that. I don't want to, I actually wanna go down, so I'm gonna toggle my direction to go down. And it remembers from the last time that we did a distance that was blind, it was 2.5. This is gonna be 2.5 as well. So we can leave that. And the other thing I wanna make sure that you have on here is it says merge results, okay? So because we're connected right here to the original L, it's gonna make it solid all the way through as opposed to having 2 separate. So make sure that that's merge results is checked. And as long as your profile, your preview looks good, you can hit the green check mark. And look at that. And if you left click off of there, now you've got a solid piece going all the way through. Okay. Go ahead and expand out your boss extrude so that I can see the sketch 2. Okay. Because I want to make sure that there's no minus sign in front of there, that it's fully defined. Okay. All right. How are we doing? Doing okay so far? Okay. Now, you're going to notice up here at the top, we have part 1. That was that generic name that we gave it, right? You'll also notice that there's an asterisk next to it. That means that we haven't saved since we've made changes, okay? So let's go ahead and save this, because I always we probably should have saved earlier, but we'll save right now. I like to say I want to save as often as I don't want to do what I just did. I don't want to redo what I already did, okay? So we're going to go into File, and we're going to go down to Save As, because we're going to save it as a different file. We're going to save it as Adjuster, okay? Yes. Oh, yeah. What's your question? It stayed the same. Okay. So if you go on to your sketch number 2, you go up to Extrude, and hit the extrude, the feature, it's going to be under Features and then Extrude. Did you do that? Okay. So what you're going to do is you want to make sure that it's on blind. You're going to go down to where there's D1. You want to make sure that that says 2.5. And are you seeing a preview of it being like this? No. Do you have merge results in there? Does it say sketch plane up here from? If you do a direction toggle, does it change directions? You don't see it at all? Shoot. Okay. Okay, so then we'll hit our okay. So that seems like it's okay now. And then I gotta remember where we're at. Oh, we're gonna do a save. So we want to go to File, Save As. Now, this is where we're going to have to figure out where we're gonna save things. Okay. Now I'm gonna show you what I did. All right. So you're going to notice that, as I said earlier, when we're saving SolidWorks files, we want to make sure that we don't move them once we kind of figure out where they're going to go. So for me, what I did is I have a directory on my OneDrive, and I teach in the mechanical design program. So I have mine called Mechanical Design Courses. And then I have a course out here called SolidWorks for Machinists. Okay. And then what I have is I have each one of my modules in here. We're gonna have 7 modules in our course. And in module number 1, I'm gonna save this adjuster, okay? So what I'd like you to do right now, and this is kind of like that file management thing, I want you to navigate to some place. Now, one of 2 places. Does everybody have a OneDrive? So if you go into cancel, file, save as, does your OneDrive come up here at Waukesha County Technical College? Does everybody have a OneDrive? No? Okay.
Can you use more than one drive?
Can you use more than? Well, you should have. I'm going to do something. I'm gonna.
Problems, but drive.
Okay, so what you're gonna do is you're gonna go into, kind of start over, file, save as, and you're gonna go down to your Windows C drive. Okay, you're gonna expand that out to the right. Oh, the next to PC. Yep, the PC, do you see that? And then do you see Windows C drive? Yep, okay, thank you. And then underneath that, you're gonna go down to users. And then you're gonna go to your name. So again, expanding each one of those out. And then once you're underneath your name, you're gonna see a OneDrive there. And you're gonna left click that. And then you're gonna create a new folder for this class. Okay,
Sorry,
yep,
I don't know what. The one drive didn't come in.
okay, hold on. Resume recording. So once you kind of find where your OneDrive is through that process, I'm gonna get back to mine. If you wanted to, and this is an extra level of detail that you don't have to go in, because I'm not going to be looking at where your files are. I'm just trying to get you to a place where you can, save them and know where they're at. What I did to kind of organize things, I know that there's going to be 7 modules in here. If you wanted to, in that directory, you can add a new folder again. And you can add one for each one of the modules, or if you just want to add for module 1 right now, that way you know the assignments for module 1 are in that folder. And then we can do the same thing for module 2 and module 3 and so on, okay? So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go into module number 1, and I'm going to save this as adjuster. Okay. And I'm gonna hit save. I called mine adjuster 1 because I had adjuster already in there from a previous time. Now what you're gonna notice is you have adjuster as now instead of part 1 up in the upper rightish of the screen. You guys have that? Okay. You'll also notice there's not an asterisk in back of it. That means that I've saved, there's no new information that I haven't saved yet. When the asterisk appears, it means that you haven't saved since you've made some changes, okay? All right, we have one more feature to add and we'll be all done, okay? The last feature that we have to add is going to be the whole, okay? So the whole for this, I'm gonna go back to page 2-4 for our kind of final, our finished model. We're gonna add the whole, I'm gonna call it in the foot, okay? So to do that, we are going to be on page 229. We're going to create what we call an extrude cut fixture or feature. I'm sorry, extrude cut feature. So I'm going to go back to SolidWorks and we are going to start with a sketch again. Okay. So we're going to start with a sketch. We're going to click on sketch. And now we're going to select the plane. It's going to be the top of the foot here that we're going to be drawing our circle on. I'm going to select that right there. And now it's going to kind of go to that plane, if you would. I'm in my sketch mode, so I'm going to go this time, instead of to the line, I'm going to go to the circle that's just to the right of the line, and I'm going to click that. Now down here, you'll notice that I have the circle on my cursor. The first point of my circle, it's going to be its center point, and I'm just going to draw it right about here. And then out, it's going to create a radius, and that's going to be the outside of my circle. Once I'm done with that, I can either click the green check mark or I can hit escape to get out of that command. And now you'll notice that it's blue and underdefined. So I need to add my smart dimensions. For a circle, I need to identify its diameter and its location in 2 directions. Okay. So I'm going to smart dimension. I'm going to click on the outside diameter anywhere along that diameter. I'm going to click on that. And you can go this way, or you can go off to the side, whichever. And I want a diameter of, I think it's 0.75. Yep. 0.75, enter. Okay. Now I'm still in dimension mode, and I need to now get the dimensions from the sides of the part. So if I go back underneath here on page 230, the illustration at the top gives me my dimensions from either one of those sides. So it's going to be 1 1/4 from the top and 3/4 from the side. So I'm going to go back over here, and I'm still in dimension mode. So now this one isn't as straightforward as just doing a line. So I'm going to first click on my line, left click on the line. Now it thinks that I want to do that. Okay, but I don't. I'm going to go straight down, and I'm going to go to the center of my circle when it activates orange. I'm going to click there, and now notice, now it gets it. That vertical dimension, I'm going to left click out here, and that's going to be 1.25. So that requires you to do a click on the top of the line, a click at the center, and then you're going to click a 3rd time to place the dimension. You could do the center, line, and place, okay, in any order. And then you're going to enter in 1.25. The second dimension we're going to do is going to be from this side. So the right vertical line here. And then I'm going to go to the center of my circle, left, and these are left clicks. And then this is going to be left click 0.75, enter. Okay. Now you'll notice down here, it says fully defined. And as soon as I accept that dimension and get out of that, all of my dimensions are black and my circle is black and I'm fully defined. There's no minus sign in front of my sketch here. So now I'm ready to exit and do the extrude cut. Okay. Any questions on that sketch? Okay. So now if I do a little rotating here, so if I hold down my middle mouse button and I rotate, I sketched on the plane of that foot. Now I want to like make a hole through there. So I'm going to left click to select that sketch. And I'm going to go to my feature tab. And I'm going to go all the way over to the right where it says extruded cut. I'm going to click on extrude cut. And now you're going to notice that it has a blind cut and it has 2.5. So if I rotate this a little bit, it's taking that cut, it's going to remove the material, but it's going to go way beyond the part. All right. So let's look at some of the selections. Instead of blind, you're going to notice that if I arrow down here, I have some other ones. I have through all, I have through both, I have up to next, and so on. Now, remember what we said about being parametric. I can at any time change any of these dimensions and it's going to update. So for instance, if I change the thickness of my L bracket here, that foot, remember it was 0.75, maybe in the future I want to make it 1 inch. If I do this as a blind and do this at 0.75, okay, all right, that seems to work right here. It looks good. I'm just going to demonstrate something for you. You don't have to follow along with this. But notice that I did that depth, a blind depth at 0.75, and this thickness was 0.75. Let's say in the future, I pull up this drawing again, and I want to make that foot thicker. I want to make it 1 inch. So I'm going to go back to the sketch. And instead of this being 3/4 of an inch, I'm going to change that to 1 inch. I'm going to make it 1 inch. Okay. So it updates it. That looks good. And I can say, okay, but now look what happened. My hole isn't going through anymore because that hole was defined as being only 0.75 deep. All right. So if I go back to that extrude cut and I edit that, and instead of this being blind and I say, oh, let's do an up to next. That means from where it's at, it's going to go up to the next surface that it hits and it's going to go through. So I'm going to do that up to next. And now notice that now it remains going through because there's a good chance I probably want that hole to go through all the time. That's called design intent. Okay. So things like that are things that you want to keep in mind as you do your design. So I'm going to go back up to, oh, not that one. This one. I'm going to go back to 3/4 of an inch, 0.75. And even when I change that, and I update that, notice that it's still going through as well. Okay. So up to next is a better choice than blind in that case, in case you ever envision that you could change a dimension here. Okay. So now I have all my features in place, right? So I want to save one more time. So notice that adjuster has the asterisk in back of it because I now created a feature in here that I haven't saved. So I'm going to do a file. And since I already did the save as and have, a place where I did it, I can just hit save this time and I don't have to go through that very same process. It's going to remember where I saved it last time. Okay. Now we are ready to hand in. Okay. We are ready to hand in. So what we're going to be doing now is I'm going to show you the process for which you're going to be handing it. Now, what we want to do is we want to position this on the screen so I can see as much as possible. Okay. So what I want you to do is I want you to kind of rotate this so that I can see just a little peek. Do you see how I can see that this hole is all the way through? If you have it sitting like this, it's not going to show the hole going all the way through. So I want you to rotate it so that I can see just a little bit that it's going all the way through. When you have it right about like this, hit the F key to fit it to the screen because I want it as big as possible. And then you're going to pan it. So you're going to hit Control. You're going to pan it over to the left as close as possible to the feature tree. Now, the next thing that you're going to do, and I'm going to have you kind of watch what I do before you do it. I'm going to get a screen snip of the entire model. I want the whole design tree in here so I can see all of your sketches expanded out so that they don't have any minus signs in front of them and I know they're fully defined. And I also want to make sure that I have the file name in here. Okay. Now to do that on my computer, and I'm not sure if you're going to do it on yours, I'm going to use the Windows Shift S. This is the screen snip. And I'm going to go up to the very upper left-hand corner. I'm going to left click and I'm going to drag, drag, drag. And now notice, don't be doing this right now. This is how much I want in my screen. I want the full design tree. I want the upper left-hand corner and I want the name of the file in there with this. Does that make sense to everybody? So this is how much I want. You don't need to go all the way over here, but I want this much. Okay. And then I'm going to release it. So I want you to try that. It's Windows Shift S all at the same time. Windows Shift S. So it's the Windows key, Shift S. You're going to left click, drag, 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 and go over the top. And then release. Did you guys get that? Did that work for you? Windows Shift S all at the same time. Left click, drag, drag, drag. So hold, hold, hold. And then release when you get that far. So once it's on your clipboard, you're going to open up a Word document. So let me go down there. Microsoft Word. You're going to do a blank document and you're just going to do Control V. Okay. And now you just saved it to a document because it was on your clipboard before. And then you're just going to do File, Save As, navigate to where you've been saving things. So I'm going to browse to my OneDrive in my SolidWorks class for machinists, Module 1, and I'm going to save that there. And that's going to be the file I can upload then as well to the assignment. So does everybody have that saved in one of those two ways, either with the snipping tool app or on a document by pasting what was on your clipboard? You know what? You can name it whatever you want because it's going to be really uploaded to the assignment. So it really doesn't matter. So you can make it whatever you want it to be. It's going to be the practice problem for Module 1.
You don't care which way you do it, Word or?
I don't. Either way is going to work. And if some people like to save it as a PDF, I think the instructions that I have in there have as a PDF, but doing a JPEG, doing a Microsoft document or a PDF will all work. Yes, yes. A PNG. I don't know if I think I can. I don't know. I hope so. I hope so. I know the JPEG works. I know that Microsoft Word works. And I know that a PDF works. I'm not sure about a PNG. I hope so. Okay, so now that you have that, let's minimize that. We're gonna minimize our SolidWorks and we're gonna go back to Canvas, okay? I know, lots of windows. We're gonna go back to Canvas. We're gonna go to Module 1. And we want to go to Module 1 practice problems, okay? There's only one problem, it's just the adjuster. So if we go into that assignment, if you would, I'm going to call it assignment in quotes. You want to work through the tutorial found in Chapter 2, the adjuster, and we just did that. We went through that, we saved it, and we've got, now I have right in here, save as a PDF, but the JPEG, I'll change this, the JPEG, the Word, or a PDF can all work for you, okay? Special notes. I will fully demonstrate, the tutorial. Make sure to take notes on formatting. We just did that right now. We demonstrated that. Points will be deducted for missing formatting and requirements. So make sure that you have enough of the screen like we had showed and that it's in one of those 3 formats. Practice problems are only going to be submitted once and no corrections are allowed. I'm going to tell you on these first couple assignments, I allow you corrections because I know we're all getting used to things, okay? Practice problems will not be accepted after the 7-day grace period. So it's worth 10 points. And you guys are going to have a place that you can upload your file, right? I don't, because I have a different version than you guys do. Okay. So you're going to upload your file, then navigate back to where that is, and then you're going to hit submit.